My name is Cordelia Winchester, and I never expected to die at 32. As a trauma nurse in Seattle, I'd seen death countless times, but experiencing it myself changed everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what comes after. I've always considered myself a rational person, someone who believes in science and measurable facts. Before my experience, I would have dismissed near-death experiences as hallucinations caused by a dying brain. But what happened to me was more real than anything I've ever experienced in my life, and it's transformed my understanding of existence itself. It was a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning at Harbor View Medical Center. The emergency department was unusually quiet, one of those rare lulls that always feels like the calm before a storm. I'd been on shift since 6 a.m., and around 10:30 I was checking on a teenage patient who'd come in with a broken arm. The monitors were beeping their usual steady rhythm, and sunlight was streaming through the windows, creating patterns on the hospital floor. Everything felt normal, routine, safe. That's when it happened. Without warning, my chest felt like it was being crushed in a vice. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, sharp, overwhelming, and absolute. I remember reaching for the wall to steady myself, but my hand never made contact. The last thing I heard was my patient screaming for help as I collapsed to the floor. Everything went black. Later, I learned that I had suffered a massive pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that had traveled to my lungs. The doctors told me it was caused by an undiagnosed clotting disorder, something I'd had since birth but never knew about. I was clinically dead for almost 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes contained an eternity of experience that would forever change my understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond. The first thing I remember after the darkness was the strange sensation of floating. I found myself looking down at my own body on the hospital floor. The scene below me was chaos. My colleagues, people I'd worked with for years, were desperately trying to save my life. Dr. Martinez, our chief of emergency medicine, was doing chest compressions. His usually calm face was intense with concentration. Sarah, my best friend and fellow nurse since nursing school, was preparing the defibrillator, her hands steady but her face streaked with tears. I wanted to tell them I was okay, that the crushing pain was gone, that I felt an inexplicable peace washing over me. But I couldn't communicate with them. I watched as they worked on my lifeless body, calling out medical terms I'd used countless times myself. V-fib, clear, push one of epi. It was surreal watching my own resuscitation, like viewing a medical drama on TV, except I was both the audience and the patient. What struck me most in those moments was the absolute absence of fear. Despite seeing my own lifeless body below, I felt completely at peace. It was as if all the anxiety, stress, and worry that had been constant companions throughout my life had simply evaporated. I was filled with a profound sense of rightness, of being exactly where I needed to be. Then everything shifted. I felt myself being drawn away from the hospital room, pulled into what seemed like a tunnel of light. The movement was incredibly fast, faster than anything I'd ever experienced, yet it felt completely natural. The light grew brighter and brighter, but it didn't hurt my eyes. Instead, it felt warm and welcoming, like coming home after a long journey. As I moved through this tunnel of light, I began to notice something extraordinary. My consciousness was expanding. Thoughts became clearer, more profound. I could suddenly understand things that had always puzzled me in life. It was as if I'd been seeing everything through a foggy window before, and now the window had been wiped clean. When I emerged from the tunnel, I found myself in a realm that defies earthly description. The colors were unlike anything I'd ever seen before, colors that don't exist in our physical world. The air itself seemed alive with music, a harmony so beautiful it brought tears to my eyes. But these weren't physical tears. I realized I no longer had a physical body. Instead, I existed as pure consciousness, pure awareness. that's when I saw him. Jesus stood before me, but not as he's typically portrayed in religious art. His presence was simultaneously overwhelming and intimately familiar. He radiated a love so pure and powerful that I fell to my knees, or at least, that was the sensation, though I had no physical form. His light was brighter than the tunnel had been, yet I could look directly at him without discomfort. His eyes held all the wisdom of the universe, but also an infinite compassion that made me feel completely known and completely loved. "Cordelia," he said, helping me to my feet, "there's something you need to see." His voice wasn't physical. It was more like pure thought being transmitted directly into my consciousness. With a gesture of his hand, the space around us transformed, and I witnessed what I can only describe as the most shocking truth about what happens to souls after death. The realm we were in, which Jesus explained was the third heaven, was vast beyond comprehension. It wasn't bound by physical laws or dimensions as we know them. Instead, it seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, with different areas or states of being overlapping and interweaving with each other. "This is not the final heaven," Jesus explained, "but rather a transitional realm where souls come immediately after death. Think of it as a divine way station, a place of healing, learning, and preparation for what comes next." The realm was divided into different sections, each serving a specific purpose for the souls residing there. Jesus began showing me through each area, explaining their significance and the state of the souls within them. What I saw challenged everything I thought I knew about death and the afterlife. In the first section, which Jesus called the Gardens of Peace, I saw souls basking in what looked like golden light. They appeared to be in a state of profound rest and contentment. Many were engaged in what seemed like deep meditation or prayer, while others were in quiet contemplation of the beauty around them. The landscape itself was alive with colors and patterns that shifted and changed in response to the soul's thoughts and emotions. "These are the souls who lived lives of love and service," Jesus explained. "They rest here, growing in understanding and peace, while awaiting the final resurrection. Their earthly lives were marked by kindness, compassion, and a genuine desire to help others. Now they experience the first fruits of their good works." I noticed that these souls seemed to glow with their own inner light, though some shone brighter than others. "The brightness you see," Jesus said, answering my unspoken question, "reflects the degree to which they allowed divine love to work through them during their earthly lives. Yet even now they continue to grow brighter as they deepen their understanding and connection to divine love." But what truly shocked me was the second section, which Jesus called the Halls of Learning. Here, souls were actively engaged in what he called divine learning. The space was filled with what looked like amphitheaters of light, where newly arrived souls worked with more advanced beings, teachers of extraordinary wisdom and compassion. I watched as souls participated in life reviews, not as a judgment, but as a profound learning experience. They were able to see every action they had taken during their earthly lives, not just from their own perspective, but from the perspective of everyone their actions had affected. Every kind word, every selfless act, every moment of love sent ripples of light through the cosmos. Conversely, every harsh word, every selfish action, every moment of cruelty had created ripples of darkness. "This is not about punishment," Jesus emphasized, seeing my concern for souls witnessing their mistakes. "It's about understanding and growth. Every soul must see and understand the true impact of their choices to evolve and move forward." In one particularly moving scene, I watched a soul reviewing a moment when they had shown kindness to a stranger, giving some money to a homeless person. In the review, they could see how that single act had not only helped the recipient buy food that day, but had restored their faith in humanity. This restored faith had led them to seek help. eventually turning their life around and going on to help others. The ripple effects of that one kind act had influenced hundreds of lives over time. Conversely, I saw souls learning from their mistakes. One soul was reviewing a moment of anger where they had spoken cruelly to their child. They experienced not only their child's immediate pain, but saw how that moment had created a wound that affected their child's relationships and self-worth throughout their life. Yet even this difficult review was surrounded by love and understanding. The teachers helped the soul understand the root of their anger and how to heal both themselves and, from this realm, help heal those they had hurt. In another area of this realm, I saw something that brought tears to my eyes. Though, again, they weren't physical tears. Souls were working together to help those still on Earth. These are what humans often call guardian angels, Jesus explained. Many are souls who have chosen to stay in this realm to help guide and protect those still living. I recognized my grandmother among them, looking exactly as she did in her prime, vibrant, full of life and love. She smiled at me, and suddenly I was flooded with understanding of how she had been helping to guide our family since her passing. She showed me countless moments where she had been present, sending love, guidance, and protection. I saw her comforting my mother during her battle with cancer, standing beside my brother during his wedding, and even helping to guide my hands during particularly difficult moments in the emergency room. Every prayer is heard, my grandmother told me, her thoughts flowing directly into my consciousness. Every moment of need is known. We can't always prevent difficulties because challenges are necessary for growth, but we can send love, strength, and guidance. Sometimes we can even help prevent accidents or guide people to make better choices, though we must always respect free will. The most eye-opening part was witnessing what Jesus called the healing chambers. These weren't physical rooms, but rather states of being where souls who had carried deep wounds from their earthly lives, trauma, addiction, anger, or fear, were being gently healed by beings of pure light. This is what human religions often misunderstand, Jesus said. No soul is ever beyond redemption. Even those who live the darkest lives have the capacity for transformation. Love is the most powerful force in existence, and divine love can heal even the deepest wounds. I watched as souls who had done terrible things on earth underwent profound healing. It wasn't punishment. It was rehabilitation through pure love. These souls were facing the truth of their actions, feeling the full impact of the pain they had caused, but always supported by divine love and understanding. The process was intense, but always guided by compassion. The healing took different forms for different souls. Some needed to experience the consequences of their actions to fully understand the impact of their choices. Others needed to reconnect with the divine love they had shut out during their earthly lives. Still others needed to heal from their own trauma before they could begin to address the harm they had caused others. Jesus showed me how souls communicate with each other in this realm, not through words but through pure thought and emotion. I witnessed beautiful reunions between family members who had been separated by death, but these reunions transcended earthly relationships. Souls who had been enemies in life were reconciling, understanding the higher purpose of their earthly conflicts. Every interaction was based on pure truth. No lies or deception were possible in this realm. Time doesn't exist here as you know it, Jesus explained. What might seem like centuries of healing and growth can happen in what Earth measures as moments. Every soul progresses at exactly the pace they need. He then showed me something that challenged everything I thought I knew about death. In one area, more advanced souls were actually helping to create new realities. These souls have learned enough to assist in the divine act of creation itself, Jesus explained. I watched in awe as these beings worked with pure energy, helping to design new worlds, new life forms, and even helping to guide the evolution of existing planets. Earth is just one small school in a vast universe of learning, Jesus said. There are countless realms and dimensions where souls can grow and evolve. The physical universe you know is just the beginning. But then Jesus showed me something that broke my heart, an area where souls had chosen to remain in darkness. Unlike the other areas, this space felt cold and isolated. These souls, Jesus explained, have not yet chosen to accept love and healing. But watch closely. I saw beings of light continuously offering love to these souls, never giving up, never condemning. This is true divine love, Jesus said. It never forces, never condemns, but also never gives up. Every soul, no matter how lost, will eventually find their way back to love. It's not a matter of if, but when. Jesus then revealed something crucial about Earth's current state. Humanity is at a turning point, he said. The choices being made now will determine much about the future. But remember, free will is absolute. The future is not set in stone. He showed me potential futures, some beautiful beyond imagination, others deeply troubling. I saw a future where humanity had learned to live in harmony with each other and with nature, where technology was used for the benefit of all, where love and wisdom guided all decisions. But I also saw potential futures where humanity's choices led to great suffering and destruction. He said, "The key is love. Not just abstract love, but love in action. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, every choice for peace over conflict shapes not just the individual soul, but the collective future of humanity." Jesus then showed me something that filled me with awe, the interconnected web of all existence. I could see how every soul was connected to every other soul, how every action affected the whole, how love was the force that bound everything together. This is why forgiveness is so crucial, he explained. When you forgive others, you're also healing yourself and contributing to the healing of the whole universe. I saw how prayers and loving thoughts created actual patterns of light that affected the physical world. I watched as people on Earth sent prayers for their loved ones, and saw how these prayers were received and answered by beings of light. Sometimes the answers came in unexpected ways, but no sincere prayer went unanswered. When Jesus told me it wasn't my time yet, he gave me a mission. "Tell them what you've seen," he said. "Tell them that death is not the end, that every soul continues its journey, that love is the most powerful force in existence, and that no one is ever truly lost." Before I returned, Jesus shared one final truth that shook me to my core. He said, "The greatest illusion is the illusion of separation. All souls, all beings, all of creation is connected in ways your earthly minds can barely comprehend. The love you give to others, you give to yourself. The harm you do to others, you do to yourself. This is why forgiveness and love are so crucial. They are the forces that heal not just individual souls, but the entire fabric of existence." He showed me how every act of love creates waves of light that ripple through all dimensions of reality, healing and uplifting everything they touch. Conversely, acts of hatred and fear create darkness that must eventually be transformed by love. "This is the great work of all souls," he explained, "learning to transform darkness into light, fear into love, separation into unity." Suddenly, I felt myself being pulled back. The last thing I heard was Jesus saying, "Remember, love is not just a feeling, it's a choice. And it's a choice that must be made again and again in every moment." I gasped awake on the hospital floor, surrounded by my colleagues. The defibrillator had just delivered its third shock. According to the medical records, I had been clinically dead for 4 minutes and 52 seconds. But those minutes contained an eternity of understanding. Since that day, I've never been the same. I no longer fear death, but I value life even more deeply. I see every person as a soul on a journey, deserving of love and understanding. I know that our time on Earth is precious, a unique opportunity to learn and grow in ways that aren't possible in other realms. My work as a nurse has taken on new meaning. When I look at patients now, I don't just see their physical bodies. I see their souls, bright and beautiful despite any outer circumstances. I understand that healing involves not just the body, but the soul as well. Sometimes when conditions are right, I can even sense the presence of the beings of light who help guide and comfort both patients and healthcare workers. The most important truth I learned is this: what dead people are doing right now is far more beautiful and purposeful than most of us imagine. They're not just resting in peace, they're actively growing, learning, healing, and even helping to shape the future of existence itself. And the love that connects all souls never dies. It only grows stronger as we progress through the different realms of existence. I share this story not to convince anyone of a particular religious view, but to offer hope and understanding about the journey we're all on. Whether you believe my experience or not, I hope you can take away this essential truth. Love is the force that moves the universe, and every act of love, no matter how small, ripples through eternity. The dead are not gone. They're more alive than ever, participating in a grand process of cosmic evolution that we can barely comprehend from our earthly perspective. And one day, we'll all understand this truth for ourselves. Until then, our task is simple but profound: to learn to love more deeply, forgive more readily, and live more fully, knowing that every choice we make shapes not just our own soul's journey, but the journey of all creation itself.